Thank you to the commenters on my last video that told me that they do want to hear my shit, which was, I said something at like the 15-minute mark about, does anybody really want to listen to this shit? That's a really good example, I think. It's just, everybody is doing this all the time. You can totally tell what people think about themselves by the things that they say. I mean, it's so obvious. Like, obviously, when I was at an impressionable age, somebody, probably my brother, said, probably just said something to me like, gave my opinion on something. He was like, well, that's dumb or something. And then I went, oh shit, I better never talk about anything again. It's so, it's just these little things that happen that create this whole personality and all of your beliefs about yourself and the way you present yourself. Obviously, I have largely overcome any kind of issue with speaking my mind. This is evidenced by the 150 videos on this channel at this point. But anyway, thank you for that. I wanted to talk about some interesting stuff that has happened over the last 10 days, 2 weeks. I was on a major Neville Goddard rereading binge over the last month or so. I just decided I wanted to, when I first, I never read any Neville like my entire life up until I was 40. I'd read like everybody else, I wasn't new to the thoughts create reality or imagination creates reality stuff. In fact, I created my whole life that way, but on purpose. But when I first found Neville Goddard, I had never read a word by him, and I just went down this rabbit hole where I literally read everything I could get my hands on. This was at the end of 2019. So I read all of his books. You should do that if you haven't. There's a ton of good stuff in there. If you're not a Bible person, just skip the Bible stuff. Everything else it's just like meat and potatoes. There's no fluff in there. Outside of that stuff, if you consider that stuff to be fluff. But, so I've been on this Neville Goddard rereading binge. And I was rereading Feeling is the Secret. If I had to give you two books to read, it'd be Feeling is the Secret and The Power of Awareness. Power of Awareness is all about your self-concept. Feeling is the Secret is essentially all about using your imagination. And so with those two things, understanding those two things, you can pretty much, that's the 20% of Neville that's going to give you 80% of your results, and that should be good enough. That'll be good enough to make some serious changes. So in The Feeling is the Secret, chapter 2, I didn't remember reading this because I must have been on a different... This is why I like to reread things after having some experience, because you go back and you see things you didn't see. You read things a different way based on whatever's transpired in the meantime. And so the second chapter of Feeling is the Secret is about falling asleep in a feeling. Not doing a sat scene, not, imagining yourself where you want to be and feeling the sensory reality and all of that stuff, which I personally, that doesn't really, I've done that for a few things, but it's just not, it's either not necessary or it's not the right thing for me because it's just not what I gravitate to. And so this chapter is just about generating a feeling and falling asleep in a feeling. The sat scene is to get the feeling of the thing that you want, but you can just generate a general feeling and fall asleep in it. And some words in this chapter really spoke to me. Paraphrasing, he says, and who knows if this is true, but in some scientifically provable way, I don't know if, this is what Neville said, that the feeling that you fall asleep in writes the script for the following day. So the events of the following day have been written when you fall asleep with whatever vibe you're in when you fall asleep. And during that following day and the events of the day, you cannot change the script. You can change the way you react within the script, but you can't, once it's written, it's written. This is what Neville says. So I just thought, well, that's interesting. I don't really want anything badly right now. I don't really, I'm just sort of like spending a lot of my time reading and studying this stuff and thinking about it and kind of really interested in other people and what they're doing and just sort of observing other people's behaviors and what they're getting from it and all that. I'm really interested in people. So that's just where I'm kind of at right now. And so I thought, well, what the hell? I'm gonna try doing this because I don't do this. I generally just, when it comes to emotions, I don't generally try to change them. I've always kind of felt like that was not a good thing to do. And I think for some things it's not. But at this one pivotal time of the day, right before you're falling asleep, I figure what's the harm? And what's the benefit of falling asleep in whatever vibe of the day there was, especially if it's negative. So for about, it's getting close to 2 weeks now. I think I missed a day because I was at a casino. I forgot. I just fell asleep. But for the most part, I have fallen asleep in the feeling that Neville actually describes in this chapter 2 of Feeling is a Secret. He says in there, and I didn't notice this until after I was already doing it. He says, fall asleep in a feeling of accomplishment and success, which is what I naturally did. And I don't know if I read it there and it just integrated into my brain or if I came up with that on my own, but that was what I naturally did. And I was like, if I'm going to fall asleep in a feeling, what feeling is it? And what do I want it to be? And for me, it was success. Like everything I did today worked out. I'm so proud of myself. You know, I'm getting everything I want. I'm doing everything right. Like even saying this right now, I feel this feeling coming up, you know, just like this feeling of just everything is great. I can't believe how well everything is working out. Like everything is just coming together. I love when a plan comes together. I did it. Like that was the general feeling, this like really warm feeling, kind of a little bit excited in the solar plexus, just this pride, this feeling. And so, you know, I was able to really intensely do that a few nights, especially the first few nights when I first started doing it. It's been a little more difficult. Last night, I like barely got it, but I got there before I fell asleep. But so I wanted to tell you the things that have occurred simultaneously. I, of course, can't say for sure that they came from this, but I can tell you that, number one, overall, I have had a way better time since then, just mood-wise. I've been in a way better mood without even trying. I've kind of been in that mood most of the time. The one I fell asleep in, this like, I've just kind of felt like that all day without trying or without there really being a reason. I have had way fewer dips into like a negative moment. Like I don't spend much of my time in negativity, but I do have times where I start thinking about something and I get a little down about it. Or I sort of have some self-doubt. Those have just been gone, like noticeably gone. And so that was pretty profound. Like that alone was enough to do it for me, even if there was nothing else that happened. But 3 other notable things have happened. I'm so glad. I made a video about this a few days ago and I deleted it. And I'm so glad I did because I want to now include the thing that happened yesterday. So in order, here's what happened. Almost immediately, I started getting answers to things that have confused me. I've been very active in the online, I don't want to call it the online manifesting community. There's a piece of dust in my eyelash. I'm sorry. I've been pretty active, like making this YouTube channel. I've been posting on Neville Goddard subreddit, since 2019. I took a long break in there after my dad died and I wasn't really doing anything. But for the most part, I'm there, you know, I'm talking to people, and I have just been completely confounded by some of the conclusions that have been drawn and like really just pushed on YouTube. Like the things other people say, I've read Neville now, and now I've read Neville twice. I've read like all of his books twice now, carefully. Like I don't just skim through them. I'm like highlighting what I think is important, just because the act of that, you know, makes it, I don't know. That's how if I'm reading carefully, I go through and like anytime something I'm like, that's important, I make the effort to, you know, anyway, I've read this stuff carefully, filtering it through my own experience of having already built this life consciously that includes a lot of money, the right partner, healthy body, just everything everyone wants, I've gotten. And so I've read all this through that, you know, how did I experience this? How does it compare? And I've just been absolutely dumbfounded about what, you know, where do people get the idea that you're actually supposed to act like you already, you know, like people that are pretending that they have something that they don't, like people that have taken this to mean that nobody else ever exists at all, like in the way you do, that no one has free will except you. Just there's all these ideas that I'm just like, look, that's not what he said. Where are these guys getting these ideas? And that has become really clear to me over the last couple weeks. A lot of it is a reading comprehension issue. People read stuff and they draw the wrong conclusions. That's just like a I don't know how to put it exactly, like an IQ thing, or it's just sort of like an innate ability. I don't know if you can develop that. You probably can, but a lot of people just don't automatically score really high on the reading comprehension part of like the standardized test you take in 3rd grade. So that explains a lot of it. It's just reading things, thinking it means one thing, and then, you know, going with that, and then telling other people that that's what it means. That's how a lot of this has happened. And this happened, the way this sort of became really clear to me was somebody made a post on the Neville Goddard subreddit saying, I've been reading this passage over and over and over again. I don't know what it means. You know, help. And there was just a slew of responses. I read through them all. I'm just like, wow, that's not a conclusion that would logically be drawn from that statement. That's not a you know, I'm just like, okay, this completely illuminated it for me. People who are very smart and capable, who could type out something that makes perfect sense and sounds very intelligent, simply are having reading comprehension errors. And it has propagated this whole set of misunderstandings that's just snowballed. And then people on YouTube have capitalized on it, capitalized on what people have believed that other people have said from misunderstanding or because they just needed to sell things to you. I mean, this is like age old, you know, there are a lot of charlatans out there, and this manifesting stuff has become an industry. Like it's big business at this point. If you know what I mean? There are people like becoming millionaires from just telling people what they want to hear about this stuff. And so, okay, that all makes perfect, like I was very confused about this. That might seem obvious to you, that everything I just said, but it wasn't completely obvious to me. I approached this whole thing with such an open mind, despite the fact that I had already done almost all of it. And I was already at the point where like I knew I was going to get into the right relationship. I still said, you know, I want to be open-minded, because who knows, like maybe I missed something here. Maybe I did this the hard way. Like maybe I could have just imagined doing blah blah, and then I wouldn't have had to like do, you know. I approached it that way and have been completely open-minded to that for like 2 years. Anyway, this all became completely clear. And while it might seem dumb to you, as somebody who is like active in this area, it was kind of a big relief. It just left. So I have been just sort of like unburdened with this thing where every time I read somebody talking about this, I'm just like, where did you get this? Like, you know, I'm searching for where you came up with this. I can't find it. I just finally figured out. It's just a reading comprehension problem. It's pretty simple. So that was really good. Okay. And then like, that's the first thing, and probably the most insignificant thing. The second thing that happened was I realized that in falling asleep in this state, that, you know, in observing that it was producing a state like itself during the day, and just sort of effortlessly, and how much it had changed everything. This made me realize the error of my ways in going to bed angry with my significant other, which, you know, he's always been all about this. Don't go to bed in a bad mood, especially don't go to bed angry. And he's the type of person that will stay up all night until the song, like he will stay up until an issue is hammered out and everybody feels better again. And there was an incident last summer where we got in a fight that, now looking back on it, totally is dumb. You know, I wasn't in a great place mentally last year in like May. I had just lost my dad. I had just had a back injury, and so that's the only explanation I could come up with for why this fight that we had upset me so much. But that one night, I said, yeah, I'm pissed. I don't care. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I don't care that we're still in the fight. I'm going to bed. And I did. And that point in my mind was a pivotal point in our relationship. It was a turning point, not for the better. It had a subtle effect, and there's been more incidents like that since then, where, you know, there's been like a tension or something that didn't get resolved before bed, and I went to bed, maybe even sometimes thinking about it and feeling upset about it and feeling like there's no solution to this, you know, like, and not realizing fully that was going to be a problem to fall asleep like that. Now I realize that, and I had a talk with Matt about this stuff. I apologized to him for going to bed angry. He would sit up, like, that must have made him feel so bad when I would just go to sleep. You know, I was always like, well, whatever, we can talk about this tomorrow. It's late, let's just go to bed. He would stay up. I don't know if he couldn't sleep or whatever, or if he was just, I don't know, but I'm sure that was very hurtful for him. And so we talked about it, and I apologized for it, and it kind of turned things around in this really subtle way. Like, there was, whatever the result of that was just kind of hanging around all the time. I can't explain it. Like, there was just like a little bit of tension that just never really went away or got resolved. And that affects things. Like, if you don't have, you know, if something like that's hanging around, it takes away a little bit of the sweetness. And we're getting married soon, so I don't want to, I want all the sweetness that can possibly be there to be there. So that was probably the biggest and most profound thing that came out of this, or happened at the same time. It was obviously a direct result of it, since seeing what going to sleep in a feeling did caused me to realize that I did this thing with him. So that was a direct result of this. That's probably the biggest thing. And that definitely has resolved some underlying thing that was there for me. So that's awesome. But sorry, now this is 17 and a half minutes long. So the big, like, outer thing that has also now occurred is that my condo finally sold. My condo has been on the market for 3 months in the midst of the hottest real estate market that I have ever personally witnessed, in a town where real estate is very expensive, and I happen to own one of the cheapest things on the market. It's a condo, it's a small condo, and it's in an older part of town. So that this wasn't sold yet just has made no sense to me. Like, 1 million people have looked at it. It's had showings like every day, and no one has bought it, even though it's like, it's really nice. Like, I loved living there. So finally it, you know, accepted an offer on it yesterday. I got an offer and accepted it. And it was not, I've mentioned on another video that in my mind, I got this when I was cleaning it up and getting it ready for the market. I was like, oh, I'm going to get this amount for it. It just popped into my head. I don't know why. So I was like, I don't know if this was significant or if it was just like an errant thought. It did not sell for that amount. It essentially sold for what I asked for it, not 20 grand more, which is what I thought I was going to get. Of course, we haven't closed yet. So the sale could fall through and somebody could come along and offer the amount I thought I was going to get. But yeah, so that's another thing. My condo freaking finally sold after this strange time of just sitting on the market during the time when everybody's trying to find an affordable place to live, especially in my town. And one other thing, just one other thing with the condo. So I don't know if I've mentioned this here, but a big part of the reason why I wanted to move in the first place, aside from just that it was small and Matt and I live there together and it's really good for a single person, but it's kind of a little tight squeeze for two people. Aside from that, a new neighbor moved in upstairs in October, and she is super loud, or was super loud. I moved out in January. So for 2.5 months, we had to deal with this person. For the first 30 days, we're just like, okay, she's putting together furniture, just got to overlook it. After 30 days, you know, I started saying stuff to her about it via note, because she was never home. So you know, I was like really diplomatic about it. I was just like, hey, this is a really old building. You know, we don't really care about noise much. We can hear everything between the units, but if you could just like be careful about at like 7 in the morning, she was dropping her shoes on the floor right above our heads and waking us up every morning. And so I just said, hey, you know, have mercy on us, please, at like 7 in the morning. If you could just like try not to drop stuff above our head. We really appreciate it. She was not having it. She was just like, this is my house. You're not going to tell me what to do in my house. She left me this big, long note. And so, so when we moved, I was like, you know what? I really hope the exact right person moves into this place. Like, you know, I know she's going to have a problem with whoever lives in our unit because it's just so freaking loud. And like, I'm really tolerant of that, more so than the average person. Having grown up in houses where you can hear everything, it's just like, but I was like, you know what? I'm willing to wait. You know, at the time when we were pissed, I was like, I'm going to wait for exactly the right person. I don't care. Like, I'm just going to reject offers until the person that makes an offer looks like somebody that's going to like get into it with her, you know, this like vengeful thing. But obviously once we moved out and didn't have that happening anymore, we stopped caring. And I accepted the first offer that came along. But the person who bought the unit is a 79-year-old grandma who doesn't look like she's going to take any shit. So this is perfect. Like, everybody who came along and looked at it, like, they didn't give me an offer. And then the one that came along is the one that I know is going to be like up there with her cane, schooling this chick. Ugh, it's going to be so awesome. I'll never know about it, of course, unless there's something major and my neighbor that I'm friends with sends me a text or something to tell me about it. But basically, from what I can tell, this person that bought my unit is going to, she's going to straighten things out. So there's going to be some karmic retribution happening as far as I can see, which brings me great joy in a, I don't know, probably an immature way. Don't care. I love it. But anyway, everything is working out perfectly. Everything I did worked. That's the sense I went to sleep in, and that seems to be how things are working out in the outer reality. So, read feeling is the secret. You know, falling asleep in the feeling at night is not always easy because you just want to, like, you know, you just want to carry on the vibe of the day. You just want to go to bed and just lay there and you don't want to have to do anything right when you're falling asleep. It can be, you know, it's a discipline like all the rest of this stuff. But, yeah, if you can discipline yourself to, even if you don't want to, definitely I had a few nights where I was just like, man, I was kind of like irritated or pissy, especially if it's a negative emotion. It kind of takes more effort to flip it into something positive. And I didn't want to, but I made myself. I just made myself. And the outer results so far have been pretty interesting. So I'm going to keep doing that. I just expect all of the minor kinks that are left to continue to just work themselves out magically. So anyway, have a great day.